Guys, welcome back to the Improvement Season podcast. It's me, Steve Hall, and today we don't have just Pascal on the other end. We have another special guest, another European guest, is Kristoffer, and I'm not even going to try and pronounce your last name. I'm actually just going to allow you to say it, Chris. Or actually, are you called Chris at all, or is it always Kristoffer?
First of all, thanks for having me, but it's Kristoffer Bangsgaard if you want to say it.
Bangsgaard.
Correct, yeah. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Sure. Yeah, and for those who don't know who Kristoffer is, we've been interacting on social media, myself and Pascal and Kristoffer, like for the last number of years. Just kind of like, you know, there's people on social media, you keep up with their journeys, and Kristoffer is someone who has like a very special physique in my eyes. He is a very good natural bodybuilder. He actually went pro with the PMBA organization last year, and it's been awesome following his journey and him taking the stage and like interacting with him too. He enjoys the podcast, and that's always like welcome when I see people who have like killer physiques and they also are educated and take that seriously. So I have been, kind of waiting to kind of bring Kristoffer on and chat about all of that. He is also a physique coach and a dog lover. So we have 3 dog lovers over here now. And that's always a good thing, I think, a good sign when you love dogs. And so, how are things on your end, Kristoffer? You're now, how long, when was your last competition last year? How many months are you into your off season?
Yeah, I've been very good. The final show I did was mid-November in Vegas, where I turned pro. So 16, 17 weeks since then, after basically a full year contest season.
And for the listeners, I think a lot of them, if they're UK based, they know the UK DFBA, and that was one of you kind of went to their world's equivalent with the UK DFBA, because I think you won the overall at the UK DFBA, right? You won the whole thing.
I did, even with a torn hamstring. I did.
No, that's crazy.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah. And for those guys, so we will definitely talk about it a little bit more in depth like later. But your entire journey was very much crazy to watch and to follow. And it just goes to show to me like the amount of dedication that you have for the sport, the commitment that you brought to this season in particularly. And also, it's something that Steve hasn't really talked about, but Kristoffer always said to us, like, at some point, I will be on the podcast. And I think it has been like 3 years in the making. And now I think that the last season was definitely a qualifier to bring you on, because it was very much a crazy journey. And Kristoffer, I don't know if you want to give the listeners, and also, of course, a rundown of the entire season. What happened? What did it look like? What was your plan to begin with? And then, of course, everything that then developed through the entire season.
I'll try to sum up a full year of No, I started my prep back in the December of 2021 towards my first show, which was the Danish Nationals in May of 2022. Which obviously went pretty good. Clean table, won my class, won my overall, also won the poster of the show as well. And I actually took a little bit of a break, mostly due to I finished a lot of exams right up on the World Championship in Italy in late June, and I was debating whether I should do that show or not, and just came to the conclusion that studies took my first priority. I didn't really want to bring peak competition in Italy right up until my exams. I didn't think that was a good cocktail. So it took a 9 or 10 week break, which also entitled a nose operation. I had a minor procedure on my nose. I have been struggling with nasal breathing out of one nostril, so I had that fixed. Luckily, a very minor procedure, but had it nevertheless. And then at the end of August, we went back to work and prepped for the UK DFBA international finals in October, and that went I'll say for the most part pretty good. I won my class, I won the overall, but I did tear my hamstring on stage I've always had the thing of doing a split for the post down, and that one out of Lord knows how many times I went down with my left leg forward, and I just felt like that, like a
snap.
Yeah, and you could see from the wall. I have the video, all definition, and those who know how conditioned I got, there was no definition in the left hamstring. Like immediately after, I could barely walk around the pose. So that was definitely not the ideal situation, especially since since it was a little bit of a gut punch at the UK DFBA, as we had imagined that it would be a pro card show, and we realized after the show that it wasn't. And then that basically kind of forced me into prepping for the Olympia despite the hamstring, which, to be honest, was probably the 3.5, 4 hardest weeks of my entire life, let alone being on prep for almost 49 weeks, having to try to nurse a hamstring that is basically torn all the way. Definitely isn't a pleasant surprise. So those last 3.5 weeks was filled with stress, pain, and doubt. Most of all, wasn't really sure would I even be able to compete. I signed up and I was like still dark blue on the entire hamstring when I signed up for the competition. Like, I have no idea if this is gonna work. It luckily did. I didn't win at the Olympia. I got second to my good friend Adam, who it was a very, very close battle, but nevertheless, it resulted in the pro card that I want to say desperately wanted to win, and luckily I did. So not the best 3.5 weeks and not the best showing, but enough to get it done and get me over the finish line.
Let's touch on those things that you brought up now, and then later come, of course, to then the Worlds as well. First and foremost, most influencers who get a nose job, they are saying the same thing, that they have a hard time breathing, but they just want to get their nose fixed and have actually then like that typical nose job, right? Yeah. So that's probably the real intention for you, going down that influencer route.
Yes, right? I need a smaller nose.
Exactly. Yeah. Then secondarily, what really stands out to me is, for most people, when you suffer from an injury like this, most people would just like call it a day and say like the season is over. For me, I wonder what made you actually stick with it, and what made you realize that you could potentially still make it, even though that it was such a severe injury.
I honestly just felt like I didn't want to stop until I had at least a shot at that pro card. You guys have been following along. You know that I've been speaking about this pro card win for Lord knows how long, and I felt like I needed to do this basically year-long prep justice. And I wanted to prove that despite the obstacles, I would be able to finish what I started. And was it probably the best decision for my mental health? Probably not. But I learned a lot, and definitely know that that's not a situation I would put a lot of people in. Because it definitely meant for some sacrifices in terms of my relationship and people around me. I wasn't a pleasant person to be around those 3.5 weeks. So in retrospect, that really has been bothering me a lot, because that's one of the most important things for me about prepping, is that if I can't be the same person that I am now when I'm in a calorie surplus, I don't want to be prepping. I don't want to be competing, because that defeats the purpose for me.
Yeah, I very much respect that. And I think it's also great to hear that you did a lot of self-reflection, that you know that it wasn't probably the wisest decision or something that you would normally recommend for other people to be doing. But you've probably invested already so much that you had a hard time accepting that this is how it ends. I wonder, and I'm not entirely certain about this, Kristoffer, and you can tell me, have you had a coach that you've been working with throughout this time who then was giving you some advice, and I would like to know, what did he tell you in that situation, if you had a coach?
Yeah, I've had the same coach for the last, I want to say almost 6 years, actually, 5.5. And he basically boiled it down to if I did not compete and not at least try to get that pro card, he would be scared that I would have too much of a void, and then that post-show period would both be trying to handle having a hamstring tear, which by itself can be very difficult if you enjoy training as much as we do, but also leaving the prep at a, I don't want to say sour note, because I won one of the biggest natural bodybuilding shows there is in the world, but it's still a sour taste because it didn't give that pro card that I envisioned I wanted to win. So that's basically his thoughts, and there was no certainty that we could be ready. He wanted to push and see if we actually could at least get it to somewhat decent stage, and we did. But
I think that takes probably, it is because you have been working with together since such a long time, that he was willing to actually say something or recommend something like this to you, because he probably knew you that well. Because if I just were to think about it, if I were in that situation and I was only working with an athlete for the first season, I would very much advise against that. And I would probably talk him out of that idea and do everything that I possibly can. But because you've been working together for such a long time, he knew you so well that he knew that if you guys stop now, it has probably even more devastating effects on you than if you at least give it a shot and try it. And also on another note, the thing that you said about even though that you won that one show, it didn't really feel like as if you did your due diligence this season. And so many people would be like, hey, what's wrong with you? You were already successful. But it always boils down to the individual. If you feel that you weren't successful, it doesn't really matter what other people around you think. And I think it's a very, very good representation of teamwork of the both of you. And sometimes to just do the irrational thing and the irresponsible thing and just go for it and try it and then see what comes out of it. And I would even assume that 9 out of 10 times it doesn't work out. But for that one time that it works out, it may be actually worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it's a hard, still brings me a lot of doubt still if it was worth it or not, because we tend to glorify the pro card, and now that I have the pro card, it's like, sure, it's very nice to put in your Instagram bio, and obviously the application for coaching is obviously a little bit bigger when you have the title, but it just meant something special to me. It was sort of a thing I wanted to prove to myself, that I finally found my spot in this world, because all throughout my youth I've been struggling with being very hard on myself in general, just never feeling like I'm good at anything, and I feel like that pro card would be the final stamp for me to just be at rest mentally about for myself, most of all, that you're good enough, and I feel like that's probably why the pro card meant so much more than just the pro status for me, because it's a sign of, I guess, self-improvement and still self-improvement. So yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Steve.
I have a question for Kristoffer. Yeah. I know it's hard to say how you would have responded because it didn't happen, but the alternative was you went and did all of that and you didn't get the pro card. Were you happy to accept, I gave it my all and I did everything I could have to have got the pro card, and if I don't get it, it's out of my hands? Or do you think not getting that pro card, like, I could have imagined it could send some people completely the other direction? Now, as Pascal said, you and your coach have a very good relationship, and I imagine if he thought that might happen, he would be like, dude, let's call it here, because at least that's my thought with a client of mine. If I'm like, if they didn't get that thing that's ultimately out of their control, and that would just send them off the rails, they'd quit the sport, whatever, like, I would not want to try and take them there. So did you kind of have that in the back of your head, like, I'm going to give it my all. If I don't get it, like I'm at peace with the fact that I've done my best.
Yes, I would say so. Yes, but there was obviously looking back, I'm not sure that I would have handled it very well. Just alone not winning after a full season of basically being too used to win. Even that was a hard pill to swallow, despite getting the pro card. So,
that's a scary thought to have. Like, if you didn't get it, because I mean, it could have easily not fallen. Like, there could have been, I don't know, the 5 best in the world turn up, and you've got your torn hamstring there, and you're not at your best. You're not at your peak. So you kind of gambled a bit, I guess.
Yeah, it was. It definitely was like we put so much faith in that despite one bad hamstring, I would be able to compete with the best in the world, and luckily it paid out that way. But again, for most people, I probably wouldn't take that approach. It was definitely a time period where we had a lot of crisis calls and speaking back and forth about should we not, and ultimately came down to he put full faith in my ability to win despite. And I think that was the final push that I needed to finish whatever we started this season. Also because I knew that my next competition season would probably not be until 2025, 2026, depending on life, I guess. So we ultimately decided that those 3.5 weeks of pain, most of all, would be worth the shot, knowing the fact that there was a long period away from stage waiting.
Now, you said that it was, you tried and said that it's probably worth the shot. But at the same time, just a minute ago, you said that you are still you're still not 100% convinced whether it was actually worth it. And it sounded to me, at least, and correct me if I'm wrong, that now having the pro card actually is not as fulfilling as you expected it to be. Is that correct, or did I kind of misinterpret that?
No, you're completely correct. I guess it's just, as always, we keep glorifying this pro card as it's the end all be all. And sure, it was cool, but was it worth it compared to me probably being an asshole to people around me? I think it's a hard decision or call to make. I keep going back and forth. Some days I'm like, sure, it was worth it. And some days I'm like, could I have won it 3 years later and been just as well? Sure, probably. But yeah, I don't think you can ultimately say if it's worth it or not. It's very person dependent. Some would say that's probably not worth it. Some would say it's definitely worth it. And again, it comes back to me being very hard on myself. I've spoken a lot to my girlfriend and my coach afterwards, and he still thinks I'm too hard on myself and how I was as a person those 3.5 weeks. So that probably takes into consideration as well.
I find it very interesting to hear all of that, because I'm always so convinced that the end goal or the end outcome of something isn't as rewarding as the journey itself most of the time. That's why most people find it way more pleasurable to actually work without ever reaching their goals, because there's then always something to work for. And I wonder, what's now the next target for you now that you have that pro card? Of course, it's probably, as you said, like 2025, maybe stepping on the stage. But is there still that fire that you had like leading up to the pro card? And what is now kind of the target and the ultimate goal for you in the sport of bodybuilding?
The fire is definitely still there. It won't be the same as when you're in prep, because I think I speak for all 3 of the mindset you get into in that tail end of a prep, where even though you're feeling like rubbish, you still just have that extra gear to switch into. I'm still very, very driven towards now winning a pro show. I'm still a firm believer in the speak it into its existence, and I'm gonna keep driving that home all until 2025, where I want to win not just one but multiple pro shows, and hopefully be seen as one of the absolute best in the world.
Yeah, that sounds interesting.
I find it really interesting because with bodybuilding, and I guess this is sports in general, but bodybuilding in particular, there's this fine line between kind of, like Pascal said, like enjoying the process, investing in that, and not worrying about the uncontrollables and not thinking, oh, I want to win this show, I have to go pro here, and like set, because those are completely out of your hand. And sometimes, like, if you don't then achieve that, do you then feel really gutted about the whole thing? And like like you said, speak it into existence. And I take myself as an example. Like, I don't know, I'd feel almost ridiculous to be like, oh, I'm definitely going pro, you guys watch, blah blah blah, because I'm like, realistically, what are my chances? And I'm like, well, it's actually completely out of my hands. Like, if someone really good turns up, no chance. If someone, maybe I have a chance there. But I also respect the fact that when you do put it out there and you are like, you really take that competitive spirit towards it, that might drive you that little edge further. And I'd hate to take that away from myself or anyone else. So it's like there's kind of a fine line where I think you can speak a good game and have that kind of ambition, but also remind yourself, ultimately, it is out of my hands.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things I think most people struggle with the bodybuilding is that your success on stage is so heavily determined on factors you can control. And that's also why I kind of went on the don't miss, speaking of, I don't want to miss on the things I can control. So long as I don't miss on that, I'll be pleased, because I know that I did whatever in my control and I nailed those aspects. And that's basically how I keep going and still not shy away from speaking things that for most people seem outrageous out loud, because I just proved that it, for me at least, it worked. It definitely gave me that extra edge, because again, I've tended to be that very, very self-critical person, always putting myself down, and I felt like this season I wanted to bring myself up. I wanted to back myself and actually not just do it out of, I guess, faking it, but actually truly believing it. And definitely gave me some edge also on the stage. My attitude on stage definitely was infected by that attitude.
Yeah, I think it's so important, stage present, and so many people underestimate how important it is, because in the end, this is the time to shine, and this is the time to present yourself, right? If you don't really stand out, then you can easily be overlooked, and Steve has now judged a couple of times, and I think he can definitely speak for himself. Or when you are sitting down in the jury and you try to look around, if there's someone who is kind of in the shadows because he doesn't really work for it, doesn't really matter whether he has the best physique or not. When someone else is really kind of, I don't know, taking the spotlight, you're probably not going to take it then.
Yeah, I'd say someone like Jeff Alberts is a great example of someone who's just like, he brings this sort of like very confident energy to stage. For me as a judge, that's something that would really appeal, because then you get these people who they try and bring it to stage and they're like this energetic mess and you're just like, oh my gosh, this guy's cringe. And you're like, you actually aren't like hitting your poses very well because they're so trying to be that person, and they're like almost aggressive on stage. You're like, man, okay. And whilst you're not judging them on that at all, you're not judging them really on stage presence, and maybe in men's physique, that's kind of a bit of a different one. But like that calm, confident energy is something that just, you can't help but notice that person. Whereas if they kind of, again, like they're kind of shy, nervous, they kind of cower away, that does definitely like show in their physique for sure. So I love what you said there, because I see myself very much. It's probably the same with Pascal as well, actually. Like, we doubt ourselves. We don't think we're as good as maybe we potentially are. I don't even like to say like I'm better than I think I am, because ultimately really don't think I'm very good. But it's nice hearing you say these things as well, because I look at you and I'm like, dude, like, if you didn't turn pro this year, it's just a matter of time until you turn pro. Like, I look at your physique, I'm like, as a pro caliber physique, I see that as a competitor, a judge, someone who's been in this industry long enough. Like, both me and Pascal can see it. So it's really nice hearing you go like, no, this year I was like out there with more confidence. And I guess that's something you've developed just over seasons and doing it more time, and that experience has allowed you to bring that to stage.
Yeah, it certainly did. But I think there was one turning point. I think it was 1 or 2 days out from a Danish nationals. I was getting back into the old habit of basically driving myself down into that hole of not believing in myself. And then I did a check in, I guess, with my coach at the venue. And Ben Howard, you guys probably know him, British pro.
Shredded glutes.
Yeah,
I've competed against Ben.
Yeah, exactly. He came in and then I guess just watched and he said out loud that as if there was a pro show today. So I think that was actually the turning point. I was like, all right, there is something we got going here that probably showed that I have what it takes to get pro. And that truly was a turning point for me, because up until that moment, I was like, I'm going to lose. I knew the one competitor that would probably be facing off against, and I was like, he looked amazing leading up till. And you guys know that if you don't get those half natty lighting pictures in the final days of the peak week, you can feel so defeated because you don't see yourself in that half natty lighting and poses and with a pump and he did, and he got the good pictures with a great camera and stuff. So I just remember I was so disheartened. I was like, damn it. But that moment truly turned the tables for my mental state, at least.
Yeah.
And I thank Ben a lot for that.
And then of course, Worlds happened, you took the win. What was going on in your head at that time? Like, you did it, you made it. We've talked about it, whether it was worth it or not, but in that moment, it probably felt like it was absolutely worth the effort that you've put forth over the past 4 weeks. You actually made it. You overcame that injury, all of the hard work and effort and time that you've invested, and it was a lot. I saw it over on Instagram. I mean, you were able to see the emotional state you've been in as well, and also the amount of work and effort that you've put forth as well. And then if you put in so much work over such a longer period of time at that state that you've been in as well, after, 49 weeks of prepping, and then taking the win, I would imagine that it was a freaking amazing experience or feeling in that moment when they announced that, or when you knew that you were going to actually take the win.
I honestly want to say it was very anticlimactic.
All right.
Yeah, but from multiple perspectives. The show itself, the Natural Olympia, wasn't run very well, to say the least. So that gave just a weird feeling, and I ended it at the end of the prep. I was just so burned out. The moment I envisioned winning the pro card was at UK DFB. That was the perfect moment. So it felt, I didn't feel as good as I hoped. Also because I got it from a second place finish, and I know that's pitiful, but I just wanted I really wanted to get on top of on the podium and get the pro card as well. So.
It's funny because you've been so exhausted by the end of the journey that you can't even enjoy it anymore.
Yeah, it took me a good few months before I was like, I really did it. Because I was so mentally and physically drained from that prep and that hamstring tear, and it didn't feel as good as I wanted. I remember backstage I was like, so that's it. This is it. I got that paper card, and I'm like, that's it.
But isn't it how it's often ending up to be with those things that we're putting on a pedestal and thinking that it's going to be that amazing moment in our lives? And then we wake up the next day and nothing really has changed. I mean, yes, you now have a pro card, but other people, especially those who aren't into bodybuilding, they don't look any kind of differently at you. The world still keeps on spinning the same way as it did before. Right. And I think that sometimes it's just a little bit of slap off reality of like, hey, nothing really has changed. You're still the same person. You have something that you've accomplished that you can be very proud of. And now you're still Kristoffer. Right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Do you not see the progress you would like? Are you sick of writing your own programs? Or perhaps you need some accountability in order to stick with a plan? Then it's time to start working with us. We at Revive Stronger offer a truly personalized coaching service. You'll get more than just an email with some macros or random cookie cutter program. With Revive Stronger, you will be the center of our attention. You will receive your own fully individualized training protocol alongside a customized nutritional strategy. We create the coaching around your needs, wants, personal preferences, and your own unique lifestyle. Every single week, we delve into your program in order to make appropriate adjustments so that we get the most out of your time and the best possible outcome. We help both female and male athletes to seriously change their body composition by adding more muscle mass and decreasing fat tissue. No matter if you're a competitive bodybuilder or just want to look better, if you need help with your progress and taking your physique to the next level, our coaching is for you. It's time to make a change. Sign up today and let's revive stronger.
It makes me think of, like, this is going to sound a bit harsh, I think, but you'll see various competitors, and I have nothing against it, but they're like putting their bio that they won a certain like qualifier show or something, and you're just like, dude, no one like remembers this, that no one cares about this, like, and still even with the pro card, like, I don't know, I see like, I don't know, people with IFBB Pro in their like name or whatever, and for me, I'm just like, it doesn't mean anything really to me as you as a person. Your physique, yeah, sure, your pro caliber physique, but you as a person, that matters more ultimately, which I think you drew back to, Kristoffer, with your relationships and everything in the process and how that impacted things. I think you probably would be regretful, say, if you now broke up with your partner and your coach was like, dude, you were such a dick, I'm leaving you. Like, you'd be like distraught. You'd be like holding on to this, I don't know, paper pro card and be like, it was all worth it. No, it would be like, damn, this thing kind of took me in a direction I really didn't want to go. So I think it's so great that you're grounded in all of that. And actually, one thing I wanted to bring up was having people in your corner to bring you up sounds so important, because I think every competitor, and I'm sure Pascal can speak to this as well, as you're even actually in any stage of your development, particularly towards stage, these self-doubts always creep in. And then if you can send some photos to someone you trust who's going to give you honest, critical feedback, and they're like, you're looking shit hot, like, that suddenly just gives you that extra like boost that you cannot get from any other thing. I think that's an underrated element of coaching with someone that you like. If you send that to your coach and they're like thumbs up, that just lights you in complete the right direction.
Yeah, but it also, I think, like, it can ring hollow if you get it from, let's say, Instagram followers, because you don't feel like you feel like, sure, they're up your ass because you're looking great, but it just rings hollow compared to, when your coach is like, you look good today, you look shit the other day, like, that makes it feel better. But
also, I think, just to add on this, if you don't really feel like this, it doesn't really matter what other people are saying. Right? I mean, especially the ones who can't really assess it well enough, because for you, I bet that people around you, like 20 weeks out, were already coming up to you saying like, man, you look crazy. Right? And you knew that you had so much more room, right? And then it really comes back to what you said, Kristoffer. It feels like nothing really. The words just don't mean anything, And it's, Steve, it's also something that I said so often already on the Improvement Season podcast. If you don't feel happy and other people are coming up to you and saying like, hey, you have so much worth living for, what good does it, or what difference does it make, right? If you don't feel happy, doesn't really matter what other people are saying about you or your life and all that kind of stuff, right? It needs to come from your end, and you need to be the one actually feeling happy. But of course, some people's opinion matter more so to us and have a bigger impact than others. But especially in the time and age of Instagram, I could very much see that you got a lot of messages, Kristoffer, saying like, man, you look dope, you will take the win. And in the end, you're just like, man, let's just see, and I would try my very best, and I still have more room to get here or to give here. So let me just do my thing, and then we will see.
Yeah, I definitely think like that was a learning curve for me, because in the start it was basically like every time I got a compliment, it was like I had to tone it down, like, oh yeah, but I still need such and such, or I could get such and such. I ended just being like, all right, let's just be thankful. Let's just appreciate people showing their support and their love, and say thank you, and then move on. You don't need to say, oh no, I need to get such and such lean, and that definitely was a learning curve for me, because I've always been that guy that whenever I get a compliment, I have to tone it down. I have to say, oh, but, you know,
Humble.
yes, yes, but too
It's a
humble.
good thing.
Yeah, when you can't take a compliment, that I realize down the line that it actually is kind of annoying when you give someone praise and then they just basically turn your compliment down. So that definitely was one of the things I was very aware of this time around.
So post-show period, I can see on your face that you've binged your freaking face off the entire time. No, in all honesty, you still look very, very lean in the face, and also when just taking a look at Instagram, coming out of it, I think that you had a great time, that your experience also paid off probably, and that you did also something that we've talked about quite extensively now in regards to kind of reflection on the season, going over with everything that happened with your girlfriend, with your coach, and that you're now in a much, much healthier position. And how was the entire transitionary period for you?
I mean, the first half week was definitely not how you should probably do it, but as you know, Steve, when you competed in USA, you are indulging you have too many options of food. So the first 4 days post show, no weight, eating out all day,
double-decker cheeseburger with a triple bacon on
all
it.
The things that Vegas food had to offer. No, but I'm pretty assertive when it comes to reversing out of a show. We basically bumped my calories like 1,000 on the same day I came home, because I knew I was so fed up at being lean. I couldn't be asked. I was done with shredded glutes. I was done with all these things that comes with being lean. So I probably think that helped a lot, that I was so burned out from being in a contest prep setting that it just made like I need to get out of this.
Did you indulge in Hashigogo? Did you go there?
Yes,
you did.
We did. It was
the chicken waffles.
It was the first meal after the pro win.
That was very good.
Is that kind of a tradition or what? Everyone has to go there as the first meal after.
What was I going to say? I had something on mind. Had you? Yeah, this is something I was going to ask. With the hamstring tear, were you already in a position where obviously you brought a fantastic package to the UKDFBA international finals, winning that? Was your physique kind of like there? Like that was like, this is the cherry on top, my physique is as good as it's ever going to be? Or do you still try and make progress with the torn hamstring, or were you at maintenance and kind of reversing already into this position?
We actually pushed pretty hard for even more condition.
Oh fuck.
Yeah. Yes. But we reached a point where the gas tank was just empty. But we had a solid 2.5 weeks of pushing for that last bit of condition, I guess.
Where was it coming from?
Someone tell me, I don't know.
Organs.
Yeah. And the worst part is that I basically ended up weighing almost the same as I did back in 2020 when I prepped for the UK DFBA as well. So Lord knows. Yeah. So they're probably not the smartest decision, but we felt like if we really wanted to step out and separate ourselves, we needed to bring that condition that basically so few are able to attain, that and that basically was the goal. So we wanted to sacrifice probably a little bit of fullness for condition, and I'm still not sure if I felt that was the best look for me. But obviously the look entirely was affected by the hamstring tear. Edema and stuff, especially in the left leg, was pretty severe still. But that was at least the goal between the shows. Again, one of these decisions where a coach myself probably wouldn't push a whole lot of people to that stage. But my coach and I knew that I had that in me. We both had faith in that I could handle and I could by the skin of my teeth.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting. Everything that you have talked about up to this point also stems from a lot of experience, because you have competed a couple of times by now, and it always falls back then to the expectation that other people have when they are competing for the first time, thinking that they will definitely win a title and all that kind of stuff, maybe even turning pro. When they don't get it, they are either disappointed by the outcome and all that kind of stuff. But in reality, I think you are a very good example that you're still making a lot of experiences, lots of new discoveries every single time that you are prepping, and that you are first now learning or getting to the point where you are more and more comfortable with the things that you know about yourself and how far you can push it, and that you probably first are at that point where you deserve that pro card now and not so much like earlier on or so. And it's just very interesting to see, because once again, so many people go in with a mindset of like, it's my first season, first show, I'm probably going to win something here.
Yeah. I mean, to put it a little bit into perspective, over the last, I would say 4.5 years, I've basically been prepping just as long as I've been in off season, which is not something I would advise for anybody. But nevertheless, that's the case. And it probably also shows how well I handle being in a prep situation, how much I enjoy it. It probably also goes with that I'm able to eat pretty high food and still get stupid shredded. So I guess that's a benefit for me, but it comes down to me just, I love the process so much. I love being in that environment. I love to be in that mental state. It brings me a lot of joy, and that's obviously why I want to do it again. And I think a lot of people would probably, after such a long season, be like, I'm not going to compete ever again. And I was like, I need to compete again, but I need a break, because I know that's what I need, because I want to be relevant as a pro when I compete again.
It's like women who go through pregnancy. Most of the time after the first pregnancy, they're like, never again. A couple of months later, they're pregnant again. It's kind of that same thing.
Or people binge drinking on the weekend, and they're like, never again. And then the next weekend, it's like, all right.
I mean, I recently caught myself like, I got prep again soon. I wouldn't mind.
Kristoffer, I have a question. So as a pro now, what areas in your physique are you looking to really bring up to kind of level you up? Is there any focus areas? Are you specializing at all? What's your kind of training looking like?
Definitely my leg, right? No.
Yeah, the quads.
No. Basically my entire upper body, which is a cop-out answer, but still chest and arms most of all. We've actually succeeded with bringing up my back, which was our focus point for the first 3.5 years of working together, my coach and I. But I think like at this point, looking back at the competitions, my back isn't so much a weak point. It actually is a pretty strong point in most shots. So chest, delts, and arms, I'm forever going to be weak in the arms. Damn you, Steve.
It's the one thing I've got.
Yeah. And Steve wants to get actually tattoos and cover it all. I don't get it.
I'm not that fussed by it.
No, so definitely our body will still take the driver's seat, but chest and delts and arms mostly. Yeah.
Very cool. And I know you're forever tagging team full range of motion in your lifts and things. So with your coach, what's the like? Do you follow? I guess a lot of the listeners are aware of like reps in reserve and like set volume addition, even things like this. What's like your general philosophy with training with your coach? How does that tend to look for you?
I feel like for the both of us, it's changed a lot over the years. I think like we've ended in sort of a middle point, I guess. We're not doing super high volume, but we're not doing super low volume either. And then I've recently post-show, I needed a break from just primarily doing bodybuilding training, I guess. So I'm also diving a little bit into some strength-focused training. But I would say a good middle point. The main bigger lift, I would probably stay a little more on the RR, reps in reserve part, but my accessory lift, I basically go as far as I can take myself. but definitely it's the lowest volume I've ever worked at this moment. But it also comes with me being stronger, me being better at training, and me just not being able to recover from the same amount of work.
Yeah, and nutritionally speaking, right now when you're also focusing on a different style of training at the moment, are you still at a faster rate of gain to recover? What's your nutrition looking like? Are you taking things a little bit more kind of intuitively at the moment after probably 52 weeks of being very much dialed in?
I probably would say that most thing I'm pretty dialed in. On most day, I just track my food as I would any other day, but I do take my freedom when I need it, eating off-plan meals with my girlfriend, or go out to eat when the chance is there. But still pretty locked in, I guess. But just how I need that gives me some mental sanity, I guess. Also due to my caloric needs being as high as they are, I need to keep track on my food intake, because otherwise I'm not gonna eat the amount of food.
How many calories are you on at the moment? I would then very much assume it's kind of 4,000 plus or so.
Yeah, and the worst part is not even that high for me. Currently I'm at 42, 4,200, which for me isn't a whole lot. Most of my off season last year was like 4,700 to 5,000. And I'm not that tall, I'm not that heavy.
What is wrong with all of the people that I'm talking to? It seems like everyone is eating double the amount as I do. I'm not that tiny.
Do you hit appetite like ceilings, or is it like do you like to incorporate? For me, you might already know, like I hit an appetite ceiling, I have to mini cut. It's not really body fat. Do you hit a similar thing, or is it like actually you can keep pushing up as well?
I definitely can push up pretty far, but I haven't hit it yet, at least. But last off season, I pretty much from the summer on until when I started prep, every meal was a fight. But I've actually haven't hit the same amount of appetite bump as you have, luckily.
Like feeling nauseous and sick.
Yeah. I mean, chronically full, sure. Having no desire to food, yes, but being nauseous and really feeling bad when eating, I haven't really ever hit that point. But it also comes a little bit with, I'm a little bit an opponent of the pushing body weight up so high as it's been trending, I guess. Often I just feel like the discomfort just doesn't suit training performance anyways. I don't feel like it's needed to add muscle. I saw a post by Nunez about his weight gain, that he needed to gain so little weight that he didn't even feel like he needed to weigh himself, because the surplus he needed is so small. And I feel like I find myself very much in that camp. So as long as I can keep weight relatively increasing, feeling good, training performance good, and not feeling nauseous when I'm eating, I'm in a good spot, I think.
Yeah, I like that. I'm very much like, ever since I just rationalized it in my head, and I was like, the most important thing is training performance. So if you're a body composition where training performance is going up, you're doing a good job. And it doesn't mean you have to get over fat. For most people, don't need to go there. So, and you just have to find that sweet spot for yourself, which is, I don't know, 10 to 15 pounds of a range maybe. So yeah, it sounds like a mini cut. If you're to introduce that, it's going to be way in your future. I mean, we're not early into this year yet, so you're probably thinking, nah, mini cut, no chance, not for a while. So that's good to hear about. And yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense in terms of like, you've just got your eyes on slowly creeping up performance, slowly creeping up body weight, and keep going until, like, I don't know, something dictates that you need to do otherwise. But if you're not competing until 2025, so you can probably push your body weight up to, again, you hit that maybe performance point where you're just like, yeah, I'm performing well, but actually I'd perform a bit better if I was a bit leaner at this stage.
Yeah. I mean, I think getting too heavy also comes with some mobility issue, that you're just not able to move the same way you used to. And I have a hard time rationalizing why that should be the goal. But yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll hit the magic 100 kg body weight this time around. Last time I hit 95 kilos and I was like, I'm done. I'm out.
You're 5'11"?
I'm bad at it in feet. 178 and a half. I think.
That's kind of same as us then.
Yeah. Okay, so you're maybe a bit taller, like a smidge taller than us.
Yeah.
Would you be
maybe
tall then? You haven't competed in height classes so much.
Yes,
have you?
yeah, I did at the UK. I was in the
it's tall
class, but it was so hard because I was over with half a centimeter or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So I seemed so small compared to the rest. You're like, are you sure you're in the tall class? I'm like, yep.
I was like, I really don't want to be in the tall class because normally you get like complete crazy mass monsters in like I guess they're the heavyweights basically. But yeah, maybe you were right that on that occasion there wasn't too many like crazy mass monsters that turned up.
So Steve, I don't know how you have it, but on my passport it says like 178 centimeters as well. But in reality, I think I'm more like 176 to be honest.
I don't know if my passport even says my height.
No?
I've got it here.
Mine says 180, so and I hide it in for my Danish nationals. I was like 179.2, and I lost almost a centimeter for the UK DFBA.
Yeah. It would be best to actually then measure your height at the later stages of the day because we're always kind of shrinking throughout the
gravity.
Day. So if you want to be in a lower weight height class the next time, Kristoffer, just get a schedule like later in the day and maybe you make it. Then you'll be the tallest in the class.
Yeah. We had a little bit of a discussion whether we wanted to be in one or the other. It was like at the end of the day we want to win the entire show. So what does it really matter?
Yes.
Yeah, totally. Then Kristoffer, one more thing, and that is it is correlated with bodybuilding, but also at the same time, not so much. I saw the announcement, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago,
Sunday,
that in regards to coaching and that you actually joined Ren, I think it's Ren Fitness, right? Is it called? Or Ren?
In Danish, it's called Ren Fitness.
Yeah, Ren.
It translates to, I guess, clean fitness. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about it. How did that actually come? Was it because of the pro card? They want to have a pro coach now on the team and all that kind of stuff?
No, it's actually my own coach who's running the company. Yeah. So no, he gave me the idea and told me about it way over a year ago, before I even started my prep. He mentioned he wanted to expand his team, and he mentioned that obviously he wanted me to be one of them. And at that point, I was still certain I would never start coaching, to be honest, up until I guess the spring of 2022. I was like, I'm not going to coach. So it actually ended up being the final push to actually get me to start considering coaching even. So yeah, teamed up with him doing, I guess, the same as FreedomJ and you guys, trying to create something bigger than just one person's brand, I guess. And the goal is to be the leading natural training, bodybuilding, powerlifting coaching team in Scandinavia.
Not possible. Okay, yeah, Scandinavia.
No. We're gonna mostly stay in Scandinavia. That's gonna.
And then every coach has their kind of area of specialty, and you are then probably kind of bodybuilding, right? Yeah.
So I'm the physique coach, so I'll mostly deal with physique goals, and then we have a strength coach, which is obviously mostly based on strength goals and powerlifting, and then Daniel is basically going to be the head coach for the start. Obviously, he has almost over a decade of experience, where I only have like 8 months now. So yeah, that's and it's been been in the works for a long time. So.
And are you guys having your own gym facility then?
Can I spoil that? When was it?
You can cut it out if you want to.
I'm not sure. Maybe. Hopefully.
Okay. Hopefully. Then you said it. Then you said everything already.
Yeah, I'll say hopefully. Lots of things can change, but hopefully, yes. The problem goes with that is, you guys probably know it as well, when you list out the things of the equipment you want to get.
Yeah.
It's not cheap.
The list just goes on and on and on. And like, oh, I need a big bank loan to get to
and
this.
then in the end, what every gym is then ending up with is kind of like matrix machines or so.
The biggest gym
Techno gym.
Yeah, no. We switched from Techno Gym to Matrix because Pure Gym bought the company called Fitness World.
All right.
Which basically had monopoly on gyms in Denmark, and they're all switching to Matrix. And I just keep seeing my clients doing Matrix things. I'm like, no, don't.
Some of it's okay, some of it is not.
It's horrendous. I tried.
The leg press is the worst.
It's really a hit or miss with some of the machines.
Yeah, I tried one. I was like, this is horrendous. Yeah. The leg press and the hack squat is just, nope, I'm not having that.
Yeah, it's awful.
Yeah.
No, but very, very interesting on, of course, the path of now you becoming also a coach. And you said, so what is it that you've been doing up to this point? And are you planning on becoming a full-time coach now? Or is it more so a side gig of yours?
No, I did.
All right.
Up until January, I still studied to be a production engineer.
Another engineer who turns into a coach. But, so many.
But after coming home from the last show, I was just in a bad place mentally because I suddenly didn't have a show to look forward to. I just had to look forward into a little over a year worth of studying for something I didn't enjoy. And I kind of knew I didn't want to do it when I was done, but I was like, I gotta finish. Yeah. It comes back to the thing with the hamstring. I want to finish, want to start, but just I couldn't rationalize why I should push myself for a year with the education I didn't want to. So as of the last exam in January, I've been coaching full time, basically preparing for this business move. So.
Yeah, no, congrats.
That's very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, I don't know if there's. We've kind of covered everything I think we needed to cover. We've ended on a nice point there.
So I should have a reason to bring me back.
Yeah, I mean, Kristoffer, you wanted to come on the podcast. If there's anything that you want to desperately discuss since like 3 years, then now is your time to shine.
No, I'll have a blast. Hopefully, my very rusty English haven't been too bad.
It's always
been a while
surprised.
since I have a conversation fully in English. I remember,
but I'm always surprised about the English skills of Scandinavian people. That has always been the case. When I was going to a Danish school and then coming over to Denmark, and hearing people talk English there, I was like, man, what the fuck is going on with the German school system and English?
I mean, we start teaching English when the kids are 6 or 7 years old. Basically in their second year of school, they're already learning English. And I mean, I do speak a little bit of German still. Not a lot. Don't test me, but I understand some German at least.
Yeah, it's the same with me and then Danish the other way around, because Danish has been my mother's tongue or second mother's tongue basically for, what was it, 12 years or so. And now it's kind of English because I'm speaking English on a daily basis due to client work and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And it's so hard for me to make a differentiation between those two languages now when I'm talking Danish, because I barely talk Danish anymore. I mix and blend English words into the Danish language, and I feel so guilty and bad about it that it makes it even harder than to speak Danish. And that's why I ended up not speaking Danish with anyone anymore, because I just feel embarrassed.
Don't worry, the Danish language has stolen so many English words by now anyways. Yeah.
No, cool. Then, Kristoffer, thank you very, very much for coming on to the podcast, talking us through your entire very interesting journey. I really do hope that was kind of, I hate the term or word in that kind of instance, but inspirational for some people listening to what it is that you went through. And I really do hope that some people had kind of good takeaways here on what to do in certain situations, that sometimes is actually worthwhile to do the irresponsible and irrational thing and just work and continue working on your goals. It's kind of the anime, a shonen story of someone who everyone hates him and everyone tells him that he can't ever be the greatest. and he becomes the greatest and actually takes the win then, right? And we will see what happens then in the future. The next step is then going to win the pro class. So and then we get you probably on another time in the future.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
No, absolutely.
I almost mentioned the anime as we were talking before, and I stopped myself. But I was thinking it. But if people want to follow along with you, Kristoffer, where should they head? I guess, where are you most active?
I mean, I tried TikTok, but I went cold. I don't enjoy that media at all. So Instagram is the way to go. I'll still post a lot of my training mostly. So yeah, you can follow along the training journey towards pro wins.
And if you're in Scandinavia and you want to work with someone, then you can always reach out to Revive Stronger, because we're a global online coaching service. Or you can, of course, then also get in touch with Kristoffer on their coaching service as well.
Yeah.
Cool.
Awesome.
Then, guys,
cheers,
thank you very much. And I guess I'll speak to you guys soon. Cheers. Losing weight fast while maintaining muscle mass. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? It isn't though. It's reality, and we know how to do it, and we will help you achieve this. The Minicut Movement is an 8-week fat loss program to make you lose a huge chunk of fat while maintaining muscle mass at the same time. We will support you from the beginning to the end so that you see the results you would like to and come out of it much stronger. You'll receive a fully automated spreadsheet that is based on your nutritional needs. You can choose between 6 different male and female training templates. Over 30 videos will guide you through each and every single step of the Minicut so that you're getting the most out of your journey and that you always know what to do. But the best thing is that you can start whenever you want. The Minicut Movement is open 24/7. So if you want to learn more or you're ready to sign up, hit the link in the description below. So let's revive stronger together.